Moby Dick! I'm telling you this not to be all full, look at what I read, but because this was actually a big deal for me. For almost 10 years, I've been promising this book that I would read it sometime, ever since high school, when we had to read some excerpts from it, and I found myself actually liking it. This book that everyone complained was, so long, so boring, so much wailing, gross. And at that time, I said, one of these days, I'm gonna read this book. Just for kicks. But I didn't end up reading it because, I don't know, I was too busy. Then in college, I was assigned some more Melville to read, and again, there was the whale whispering a summons to me from the distance. But still, I had all these excuses. I'm too busy. In the time that it would take me to read that book, I could read 4 others. And then a couple years ago, I read and reviewed Nathaniel Philbrick's In the Heart of the Sea. And then more recently, there were all these references to Moby Dick jumping out at me from Star Trek II and the X-Files, and I was like, for crying out loud, Moby Dick, this needs to happen! Finally, to force my hand, I guess, my friend bought me this lovely copy of Moby Dick for Christmas. Look at how juicy this is. This thing has this nice smooth cover with this really nice illustration on the front, and it's beautiful color on the back and on the side, and inside it has more illustrations from the 1930, I think, and not that I need illustrations to make a book interesting, but, you know, it helps. So I had the extra incentive of this baby sitting on my shelf, just waiting for me, calling to me, and finally, one day about a month ago, I just happened to pick it up, flipped it open, and I got hooked. Moby Dick is just like everyone says, and nothing like everyone says. When I started it, I was immediately pulled in by the colorful characters, the exciting way that Melville captured the allure of the ocean, and this surprisingly cheeky style that he had in his writing. Melville is a funny guy, and the first 200 pages of this book flew in a couple of days. And at that rate, I calculated that I could have this whole book read in about a week, maybe a little over a week. And then I hit the giant whale-sized bump in the road that is the section on whaling. Ooh, let me tell you everything I know about whales, including what kinds of whales there are and what they look like, and all the different ways that whales have been depicted in art, both realistically and as complete monsters, which they seriously are, especially the white ones, because even though people think that white is a pure good color, it's actually not. It's totally evil, and let me give you an exhaustive list of all the things that are white that seem harmless, but actually are not. They're completely evil. You have to believe me. And, let me tell you about all these guys in history and mythology that you've probably heard of before, but even if you don't, I'm going to talk about them anyway. And you know what? All these guys were actually whalemen, and I know that that sounds really sketchy, but really, you just got to trust me on this. Let me tell you about, like, the whale itself, like, biologically. Let's really get in the body. Like, let me tell you everything I know about blubber and the spiracles and, like, all the different ways that they use their tail. And, let's talk about, like, the skeleton. Like, I tattooed all these numbers on my arms of the skeleton from the whale I found. I tattooed them so that I would remember, so that I could tell you. Let me tell you all the different ways that I know to cut up a whale, and, like, how after you're done, you're supposed to hang on the head. Ishmael! Can we get back to the story? Okay. Thanks. Yeah, getting stuck in that encyclopedic section really threw off my happy little schedule, but I wasn't too irritated by that, because, you know what? If you think about how Melville's main audience knew pretty much nothing about this mysterious aquatic creature, and he took it upon himself to tell them everything he knew, whether it was factual or not, that's pretty impressive. Even though some of what he says is a little weird or completely wildly outdated by our standards. And B, it turns out that Melville snuck some cheeky little personal comment nuggets in here and there throughout this dull, informative stuff. If you skip around, you're gonna cheat yourself of a good chuckle or a thought-provoking idea that makes the whole tangent worthwhile. I'm not saying the whaling parts aren't a chore. They are. I was stuck there for a couple of weeks. And I don't even like whales. There's just something about them that kind of freaks me out. I went on a whale watch. I loved it, except for the part where 2 whales came straight at the boat and I was 99% sure that they were going to capsize it. The good thing about this section, though, and really the whole book, is that the chapters are very short and manageable. So all it takes really is a little determination. And then there's the stuff that I signed up for. Captain Ahab's obsessive quest for revenge against the white whale that took off his leg. There isn't really much that I feel like I need to say except that it was exactly what I wanted, and Melville totally delivered. It's just so good. I want people who feel like I felt 10 years ago to know that this book is not impossible. It's just hefty. When you finish it, you feel like you've accomplished something. I feel like I just came back from a long and insane whaling voyage. And along the way, I met some really exciting, crazy characters that I loved. Captain Ahab, Gweekweg, Starbuck, Stubb, Pip. And I also want to encourage people to read whatever book it is that they've always been intending to read. Make time for it. I'm not saying that book has to be Moby Dick. It could be something else. But if you want to read it, read it. Don't put it off. I'm glad that I finally fulfilled my promise to this book, because otherwise, think of all the things that I just talked about that I would have missed out on. Thanks for watching. Bye!